Some American cities are dead weight. We're talking about places with unemployment stuck above 7%, violent crime rates more than triple the national average, poverty choking 1 in 4 residents, and infrastructure collapsing in real time. Cities where schools fail, businesses flee, and taxpayer money vanishes into potholes and revitalization plans that never happen. And it's not just opinion, it's backed by stats. Over 3 million Americans have left these cities in the last decade. They didn't move, they escaped. This isn't about cities falling on hard times. These are cities that have given up. So if you live there, sorry. If you're defending them, you're part of the problem. Let's count them down. This is the 10 most useless cities in America. Starting at number 10, Rockford, Illinois, the city that forgot it existed. If Rockford, Illinois were a software update, it would be one of those optional patches that you click "Remind me later" on forever. Once dubbed the screw capital of the world for its manufacturing heyday, Rockford now ranks as one of the most economically distressed cities in the Midwest. In 2024, it posted an unemployment rate of 7.6%, well above the national average, and had one of the highest foreclosure rates in Illinois. Over 20% of residents live in poverty, and the city's population is shrinking faster than its tax base can keep up. Median home value? $128,000, and still, people can't sell. Rockford's school district struggles to hold on to teachers, with a 30% turnover rate in the past 2 years, and don't expect a walk in the park, literally. The city's once proud park system now deals with vandalism, neglect, and staffing cuts. Downtown revitalization efforts exist, but they're mostly empty facades, coffee shops for grant tourists and Instagram, not for residents. The crime rate has hovered 70% above the national average, with carjackings and burglaries on the rise. Even the healthcare system is stressed. Rockford's largest hospital has faced layoffs and service cuts, forcing many to seek care in neighboring cities. There's no major industry left, no tech boom, no college influx, no momentum. Rockford doesn't scream failure. It sighs it. The local government pushes optimism campaigns, but the budget is so strapped it can't even maintain city vehicles without cannibalizing parts from junkers. Rockford isn't collapsing loudly. It's evaporating quietly, one boarded-up window at a time. Number 9. Toledo, Ohio, the city of broken glass and broken promises. If the American dream had a scrapyard, it would be Toledo, Ohio. This Rust Belt relic is what happens when a city tries to coast on the fumes of a 20th century identity while the 21st century leaves it behind in an Uber. In 2024, Toledo's median household income was just $42,000, and nearly 25% of residents live under the poverty line. The city once thrived on auto parts and glass manufacturing, but now it's more known for crime maps, potholes, and "now hiring" signs that never get taken down. Toledo ranked in the bottom 10 for job growth among all mid-sized U.S. cities. Even though Jeep still has a plant here, the wages haven't kept up, and layoffs are always around the corner. Education? Nearly 30% of adults lack post-secondary credentials, and the public school system teeters on the brink of dysfunction. In fact, the local school board spent months in 2023 embroiled in corruption scandals involving embezzled funds and ghost contractors. Downtown Toledo looks revitalized from a distance, but walk a few blocks and it's all abandoned buildings and vape shops. Toledo has one of the highest burglary rates in Ohio, and police response times now average over 25 minutes because departments are understaffed and underfunded. Meanwhile, roads look like they've survived a mild airstrike, and the city's water system has battled algae blooms from Lake Erie so bad they've shut off taps in recent years. The whole city feels like a reboot of a 1980s sitcom that didn't make it past episode 2. Toledo's not dead, but it's not alive either. It's on life support, and the plug's looking loose. Number 8. Stockton, California. Bankruptcy, round 2 incoming? Stockton is the kind of city that makes you ask, wait, didn't they already go bankrupt? And the answer is yes. Stockton filed for bankruptcy in 2012, and a decade later, it's somehow still broke in spirit if not on paper. In 2025, Stockton is a case study in failed recovery. Crime is soaring. Violent crime jumped 17% from the previous year, and car thefts rose so fast in the first quarter of 2024 that police stopped reporting individual cases publicly. The median income is $58,000, but housing prices are still wildly inflated, with rent averaging $1,900 a month in a city with almost no economic foundation. That's not affordability, that's madness. Schools are barely hanging on. The Stockton Unified School District is under state watch for financial mismanagement. Again. Teachers are leaving in droves, class sizes balloon past 35, and some buildings literally have mold warnings taped to the doors. And don't be fooled by the palm trees. Stockton has one of the highest homelessness rates per capita in the Central Valley. Why? Because the city builds affordable housing that ends up costing $400,000 per unit and only serves a sliver of the problem. Infrastructure? Stockton has the worst road conditions in California outside of LA, with drivers averaging $100 a year in damage from potholes alone. Meanwhile, the city council holds visioning workshops, while police and fire departments report chronic staffing shortages. The only vision here is a future where Stockton hits bankruptcy again, just with fancier PowerPoints. This city isn't just a failure, it's an overfunded mess wearing bankruptcy like a badge of honor. Number 7. Bakersfield, California, the smoggy graveyard of ambition. If you've ever driven through California's Central Valley and wondered if you accidentally left Earth and landed on the dusty set of a post-apocalyptic farming documentary, welcome to Bakersfield. This isn't just a forgotten town, it's a living, wheezing paradox. A place with no water but plenty of dust, no tech but plenty of traffic, and no opportunity but somehow a ballooning population that can't escape. As of 2025, Bakersfield has one of the lowest college graduation rates of any U.S. metro over 400,000 people. Just 18% of adults hold a bachelor's degree. And the jobs? It's still almost entirely dependent on oil and agriculture, both of which are whiplashed by lawsuits, regulations, droughts, and automation. Unemployment hovers at 7.2%, but that number hides the fact that most people are working jobs with no upward mobility, no benefits, and wages that barely compete with fast food in other cities. Median income? $57,000. And somehow, rent just passed $1,800 a month. Do the math. It doesn't work. Bakersfield's air quality is the worst in America. No, really. The American Lung Association ranked it number 1 for year-round particle pollution and number 2 for ozone. Breathing here is like chain smoking next to a tractor. Public health outcomes are abysmal. High asthma rates, rising obesity, and the third highest rate of STDs per capita in California. Crime? It's bad and getting worse. Homicides are up 13% year over year. Meanwhile, public transportation is a joke, and infrastructure spending is non-existent. Bakersfield is a sprawl of fast food signs, payday lenders, and broken sidewalks. It's not just behind the times. It's running in reverse, and proudly. A city built for the 1950s that somehow skipped every upgrade since. Bakersfield isn't evolving. It's evaporating. Number 6. Shreveport, Louisiana. The city. That time outsourced. Shreveport might be the most aggressively irrelevant city in the South, and that's saying something. This was once a bustling industrial and oil hub, but now it's like watching a VHS tape loop of failure. In 2024, Shreveport ranked in the bottom 5 for job opportunities among U.S. cities with over 150,000 people. The median household income? Just $39,000, and nearly 30% of residents are living in poverty. That's not just rough. It's generational decay. The city's infrastructure is in full collapse mode. Massive sewage overflows, water main breaks, and power outages are practically a weekly ritual. The EPA fined the city millions over environmental violations. And the fix? A deferred maintenance plan. Translation: kick the can down the pothole-riddled road. And crime? Shreveport had the second highest violent crime rate in Louisiana last year, just behind New Orleans. But unlike New Orleans, it doesn't even have a tourist economy to fall back on, unless you count the handful of dying riverboat casinos. Schools are in freefall, with some public institutions seeing graduation rates below 65%. And while Shreveport loves to boast about its film industry presence, guess what? Most of those productions left after tax incentives dried up. What's left behind is a city clinging to slogans and slogans only. There's no tech, no innovation, and no reason to stay unless you're stuck. And that's the most tragic part. Tens of thousands are stuck, trapped by low wages, broken public services, and leaders who promise change but can't even show up for council meetings. Shreveport isn't sleeping. It's sedated. And there's no one reaching for the smelling salts. Number 5. Gary, Indiana, the city that died but still pays taxes. Gary, Indiana is the urban equivalent of an abandoned factory still getting electricity bills. Let's start with the numbers, because they're brutal. As of 2025, Gary's population has collapsed to just over 66,000, down from 178,000 in the 1960s. That's a 63% drop, one of the steepest in U.S. history, and it's not hard to see why. Gary leads the state in violent crime per capita. The murder rate is so consistent it's almost mechanical, like someone forgot to turn it off. Jobs? What jobs? Gary's unemployment rate hovers around 9%, but that doesn't count those who've simply stopped looking. The steel industry that once gave Gary life is now a ghost, and the city hasn't replaced it with anything sustainable. It's a hollowed-out relic. The school system is practically non-functional. In 2023, one high school graduated under 50% of its students. Entire blocks are boarded up. Some neighborhoods have more feral dogs than residents. Even the police department is struggling to retain officers because the budget can't support basic operations. Gary has received millions in federal grants, but ask anyone living there if they've seen it. Spoiler, they haven't. Corruption, mismanagement, and city council dysfunction have chewed through every dollar like termites in a condemned church. And speaking of churches, Gary has more abandoned ones than operating businesses. It's a city of rust and memory. And yet, despite all this, taxes are still collected. Water bills still go out. Fines still get issued. It's like the city exists on autopilot, just without the part where anything improves. Gary isn't rebuilding. It's waiting to be demolished. Number 4. Jackson, Mississippi. Capital of collapse. Jackson is Mississippi's capital, and yet it operates like it lost the manual on how cities are supposed to work. No exaggeration. Jackson literally didn't have clean drinking water for weeks in 2022, and the problem still isn't fully resolved in 2025. The city's water infrastructure is so damaged that parts of the city still rely on boil notices multiple times a year. This isn't rural farmland, it's the capital of a U.S. state. In 2024, over 25% of Jackson's population lived below the poverty line with a median income under $40,000. And the tax base? Disintegrating. Middle-class flight has decimated property values, and the city's revenue streams are drying up faster than its reservoirs. Meanwhile, violent crime remains staggeringly high, almost double the national average. In 2023 alone, there were over 150 homicides in a city of fewer than 150,000 people. Schools are in crisis. The Jackson Public School District was under state supervision for years, and while some improvement has been claimed on paper, parents will tell you the opposite. Classrooms are underfunded, under-equipped, and overcrowded. Public services have also reached surreal levels of dysfunction. There were months where trash pickup simply stopped due to contract disputes and bureaucratic gridlock. And leadership? Don't get your hopes up. In 2024, the city council couldn't pass a balanced budget. Again, local officials are too busy fighting lawsuits and pointing fingers to actually solve anything. Jackson isn't just broken. It's proof that you can pour money into a system, and without vision, it'll still collapse. The lights are on, but the city's future isn't home. Number 3. Baltimore, Maryland, America's open-air caution tape. Baltimore isn't a city anymore. It's a live-action case study in what happens when leadership evaporates, systems rot, and accountability goes out for a smoke and never returns. In 2025, the city is still bleeding residents, down to 563,000, its lowest population in over a century. And what are they fleeing? Try a violent crime rate that's nearly 5 times the national average. In 2024 alone, Baltimore saw more than 330 homicides, a number that rivals entire states. And yet the police department burns through over $500 million annually, with little to show but headlines about corruption and cover-ups. Let's talk education. Baltimore spends $21,600 per student, one of the highest in the country. And yet 23 city schools reported 0 students proficient in math last year. 0. Not even 1. Infrastructure? The water system is in such dire shape that boil advisories are routine. Streetlights go dark for weeks. Whole neighborhoods exist in a state of managed decay. Johns Hopkins and Under Armour prop up a thin facade of progress, but they're fortresses, not community anchors. The rest of the economy? A patchwork of nonprofits, failing public projects, and short-term grants that vanish as fast as they arrive. And don't forget the infamous squeegee boys at every traffic stop downtown. Symbols of a youth economy based on desperation, not opportunity. Baltimore isn't rebuilding. It's looping. A city so haunted by mismanagement, the only thing that consistently grows here is the body count. Charm City? That was a marketing campaign. The reality is a bureaucratic labyrinth built on broken trust. Number 2, St. Louis, Missouri, the murder capital, with a PR problem. St. Louis, Missouri is proof that you can bulldoze stadiums, build shiny downtown apartments, and still not fix what's broken underneath. This city isn't just declining, it's actively deteriorating. St. Louis ranks first in the nation for murder rate per capita, with 87 homicides per 100,000 people in 2024. That's not just bad. That's worse than most countries at war. And it's not random. It's systemic. The city is hollowed out with a population now under 290,000, a far cry from its 850,000 peak. Entire zip codes look like they've been evacuated post-apocalypse. Vacant homes, collapsing roofs, overgrown lots. The job market? It's a ghost of the industrial past. The median household income sits at $43,000, and over 21% live in poverty. Public schools are closing faster than churches. One 2023 report found that less than half of third graders in the district read at grade level. And don't be fooled by the tech corridor branding. Those companies are in the suburbs, nowhere near the urban core. St. Louis City proper is a patchwork of neglect and fear. Police response times have ballooned to over 45 minutes in some districts, and morale is so low that nearly 20% of officers quit in the last 2 years. The Metrolink train system? It's become a rolling safe house for crime, with ridership tanking as locals opt for Ubers and prayers. And yet city leaders keep pushing revitalization plans that seem allergic to involving actual residents. St. Louis doesn't need a new slogan. It needs an autopsy, because what used to be the gateway to the West has become the exit ramp from prosperity. Number 1. Birmingham, Alabama, the blueprint for urban failure, and now, the crown jewel of collapse. Birmingham, Alabama, a city that manages to be irrelevant, dangerous, and bankrupt, all at once. Once the steel capital of the South, Birmingham is now just scrap metal held together by city council duct tape and crumbling optimism. The numbers are staggering. In 2024, the violent crime rate was more than triple the national average, and the city logged 140 homicides in a population of just 196,000. For perspective, that gives Birmingham a higher murder rate than Chicago. And that's just the crime. The city's median household income is $39,500, and over 26% of residents live in poverty. That's more than 1 in 4. The school system? It's circling the drain. The city closed 17 schools in 5 years due to enrollment drops and budget crises. Graduation rates hover in the mid-70s, but testing scores are in the basement. And for those trying to escape the cycle, good luck. Public transportation is nearly non-existent. The bus system is underfunded, unreliable, and irrelevant to anyone with a real job. Healthcare? Birmingham has one of the highest rates of hospital closures per capita in the South, forcing many to drive hours for care. Economic opportunity? The city relies heavily on low-wage service jobs and inconsistent federal grants. Meanwhile, the downtown revival is a mirage. half-finished luxury lofts next to boarded-up pawn shops. Even the city's airport struggles, with fewer flights than most regional hubs. Birmingham isn't just behind, it's the control group for how not to run a city. Congratulations, Birmingham, you're number one with a bullet, literally. So there you have it, the 10 most useless cities in America. Not misunderstood, not up and coming, useless. Cities where billions in taxpayer money vanish into consulting contracts, anti-crime murals, and PR campaigns, while potholes swallow cars, schools fail entire generations, and police departments can't even respond on time. These aren't places going through a rough patch, they're urban sinkholes, dragging down everyone around them, draining resources, and locking millions of Americans into cycles of poverty, crime, and despair. And the numbers don't lie. Over 500,000 residents have left the top 5 cities alone since 2020. Combined, these cities lose over $12 billion a year in productivity. And most terrifying of all, they get bailed out anyway. With your money. Let's be clear. The people aren't the problem. They're the victims of corrupt leadership, failed planning, and generations of mismanagement wrapped in good intentions and empty slogans. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good. Because until we stop pretending that failure is complex and start calling it what it is, unacceptable, nothing's going to change. So yeah, call it harsh. But harsh is better than blind. These cities don't need more excuses. They need a reckoning. Fix it or get out of the way.